Yeah, no, definitely the case, and very well coached, as you said, and that's why fantasy is so appealing for this team. Speaking of which, Cam Akers was one of the bigger stories of last year, returning very early from an ACL injury, and what a really great story it was, but unfortunately didn't look very good when he came back. Now a lot can be attributed to that, and I guess that's why we'll do a deeper dive here. His ADP is 18 in terms of running backs taken. His positional ranking is 18 and overall is going approximately in the third round. So what's interesting, Davis, is that had Cam Akers come back last year and look great, he'd probably be a first round pick in fantasy football. But for some reason, whatever we saw in that last month and leading up to the Super Bowl is giving people some pause for sure. Why is he going so low in fantasy football drafts?
Yeah, I actually think the fact that he came back has had a negative impact on his ADP. I think if he just returned in the offseason, gave us, if he was active in the preseason, got a couple carries in the preseason, I would probably anticipate him being something like like a 2-3 turn pick, kind of where
Mm-hmm.
Leonard Fournette and Nick Chubb are going. But these were his stat lines after returning from that Achilles injury: 5 carries for 3 yards, 17 carries for 55 yards. 24 carries for 48 yards, 13 for 48, 13 for 21 in the Super Bowl, averaged 2.4 yards per carry after returning from that Achilles injury. And then you compare that with what Darrell Henderson did. And of course, Henderson had kind of been banged up. And that was why I think Akers rushed back, was that they just couldn't count on Henderson to stay healthy. But he averaged almost 5 yards per carry last season, was far better in the passing game than Akers was. Sean McVay was talking to the media 2 weekends ago, and he said he viewed the backfield as having two starters, right? So he's got Cam Akers and he's got Darrell Henderson, a 1A and a 1A, kind of like the Green Bay Packers situation. I think Akers is honestly a terrible pick where he goes in fantasy football drafts. I prefer the guys who go directly behind him: Tony Pollard, A.J. Dillon, Eli Mitchell, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Antonio Gibson. I think all of those guys are better picks than Akers, because it would be very strange to me to see Akers have, a 70-30 dominant split over Darrell Henderson in this backfield, considering that Akers is not a particularly good passing down back and Henderson is. So Henderson to me is the far better selection at cost.